Hey guys. All right. So today, what I wanted to talk about was hiring a development team for your Shopify store. Now, recently I've spoken to a lot of brands that have had really poor experiences working with cheaper developers off of platforms like Fiverr and so on and so forth. Now, I used to be a freelance Shopify developer, so I'm not doing this to throw shade at anyone or diss anyone. At the end of the day, I think that there's a market for each stage of expertise when it comes to ecom, store development, store design, layout, CR optimization, etc. However, what I think is really important is that if you are a brand that has the budget, or even if you're a brand that sort of has the budget, you probably should be leaning more towards a team that can actually help you, not just with the development side of things, as in the actual coding, but also in terms of planning how your store should look, what type of layouts you should be using on the store, what type of avatar we should be going after, your store should be targeting, and what they react to best, essentially. We want to start to understand from a marketing point of view and from a psychology point of view the best way to convert someone into a paying customer. And there's a lot of different strategies and methods that can be introduced in order to go into depth with that and come to some conclusion on that. But you do require someone or some people that have their head switched on when it comes to that side of things. And one thing that I see over and over again is I get on a call with a lead that's frustrated because the Shopify store doesn't look good and it's not functioning well. And maybe it's a profitable business still, but they know that there's just a lot of room for improvement. There's just way more that they could be doing on the Shopify store. And so oftentimes what ends up happening is they will hire a developer. The developer will come in and they'll be like, well, I kind of like want a better product page. And then the developer's like, okay, so tell me what product page you like to look off. And they'll send some references and then he'll just basically mix and match some random sections from some random other product pages and put together some Frankenstein template that doesn't really look good and doesn't convert well either. And the big problem there is that you haven't followed a proper development cycle to develop that product page. First of all, like you should have had designs made first, and then that should have gone to development, and then that should have gone to QA, and then that's what should have been returned to you. But there was no real conversation that was had around what the best layout was, and there was no mock-ups that were seen prior to the developer going straight to development. And this is the types of issues that I see a lot with a lot of the leads that are kind of coming through our funnel and a lot of the complaints that they're making. It's that they're going to a developer who's just a freelance developer, and oftentimes a cheaper freelance developer who's a bit of a generalist. They're not experts in Shopify. They do a bit of WordPress, a bit of Shopify, a bit of Wix, a bit of Squarespace, a bit of everything. And they're not specialists in any one thing. And their expectation from the client is that these guys are going to, or this guy, this singular person is going to come in, do an audit on the website, identify all the areas for improvement that the website has, and then build these like really amazing bespoke solutions that are just going to perform extremely well and skyrocket the business. And to be honest with you, that's wishful thinking. That is the goal and the end result, but you're not going to get that for $200 off of Fiverr. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. There are some good developers on Fiverr, and I've worked with various services on Fiverr for some things for my business, and there are genuinely good freelancers there. But if you really want the expertise of someone that has helped a Shopify brand who is doing $20,000 a month scale to $100,000 a month or $500,000 a month or even $1 million a month and beyond, then you really need to work with a team that's done that before and that kind of understands the market to an extent. So what I would suggest is that if you are a Shopify store, if you run your own Shopify store and you do want to optimize the website, that you don't just look for a developer and kind of just tell the developer sort of what you want and then just leave them to it. I would suggest that you try and look out for a team that has, number one, a designer on the team, because you are going to have to see some mockups before you sign off on them. Number two, has a competent development team that can actually code that stuff and are specialists on Shopify and not just generalists who do a little of everything. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, you want a team that has someone in it that is actually going to be able to look through the website through the lens of a CRO specialist. You want someone that has had experience increasing conversion rates on different stores and has had both successful tests, which are great, but also a lot of unsuccessful tests, who kind of knows that changing this thing on the website usually doesn't produce an increase in conversion rates or sometimes hurts conversion rates, and kind of can guide you through what best practices are and what the fundamentals of a website, of an e-commerce website, should be. And then you can use that as a starting point to then do more iterative testing moving forwards and hopefully offload that to a team that can do the website side of things, whilst you focus on the more important stuff, like your branding, your messaging, your positioning, your marketing. If you're manufacturing the product, your manufacturing, your supply chain, getting into retail stores, etc. That's the ideal scenario. Now, I appreciate not everyone can afford that, especially straight out the gate. It's not easy to hire an entire team to do one thing, but that is the ideal scenario. And I think if you're not in a position where you can't afford that, then what I would probably recommend is that you are going to have to do more of the work yourself, but ensure that you hire both a developer and a designer, and work with the designer first. And you will have to do a lot of the heavy work in terms of the types of structures that you like in other websites that you think make sense from a CRO point of view, that look good on mobile, that present the product really well, but also clearly demonstrate benefits and pain points and things like that, and objection handling and so on and so forth. You have to make sure that all that is down and kind of understood first yourself, then go to a designer, work with the designer to make something that works for the brand. And then once those designs are perfected and signed off, then take that to a developer and get that developed. And that's going to be the best way that you can do this for as cheap as possible. And you can cut down your costs pretty significantly if you go down that route. But just keep in mind that you're not going to be able to hire a developer off of Fiverr and they're just going to come in and revolutionize your online business. That's not going to happen, and that's very unrealistic to expect that. So this video didn't have much of a structure to it. It's really just me rambling a little bit, but it's just something I've been hearing from a lot. And like we help brands with this, so I kind of, and like I said, I used to be a freelance developer, so I kind of know both sides of the coin, if that makes sense. But I think that sometimes clients have these unrealistic expectations when they're going to these cheaper developers on platforms like Fiverr, and they're thinking that they're going to get the world, and obviously they don't. If you want that premium service, you have to look for a team, because you're looking for really three specialists here. You're looking for a CRO/marketing specialist, you're looking for a design expert, a UI expert, and then you're also looking for a full stack development expert who has specific expertise in Shopify, as opposed to just being kind of a very general developer that works on everything. And so if you can find the team that ticks those three boxes, then that's probably a team that you should work with, or at least give them a shot and see how they do. So shameless plug, if you do want us to do a free audit on your Shopify store, figure out all the areas that you guys can improve, then please click the link, the first link in the description below, and book a call either with myself personally, I take almost all the calls, or it might be a team member, a trusted team member who might take the call for me. And we'll basically just review your website, do a little bit of an audit, understand where we think you can improve to get you to a place where you're kind of following best practices and have that good foundation. And then we'll put together a secondary plan in terms of A/B tests moving forwards on some of the highest leverage stuff that we think will probably increase conversion rates, average order value, lifetime value, etc., of your customers as well. So I hope that helps, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.